like to turn to the FirstNet issue. Michael's the CEO of FirstNet, the important issue that gives emergency responders a nationwide communications network. You may have noticed that FirstNet has made a bit of news in the past few days, week, and I was fortunate to attend the historic meeting just last week at the board when the FirstNet board authorized awarding a contract to build and maintain the public safety network. One of the key factors in making FirstNet a reality requires all existing carriers, large and small, to expedite the build-out, coverage, and capability of this network. Today, we have a man who heads this effort, FirstNet CEO Michael Poth. This is the first public appearance and the keynote appearance since awarding the contract. And Mike has a unique combination of public safety and technology experience. He also knows a thing or two about first responders, having served in police departments for over 14 years himself. So we are very glad to have him here with us again to update us on where things stand and how CCA members can be part of the FirstNet's plan. So please share, put your hands together and share a good warm welcome to our CEO of FirstNet, Michael Poth. Michael, come up and join us. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So I went to the gym this morning, and I think the cast of Cirque du Soleil was in there working out, and I decided, I guess I'm never going to get to be able to be one of them. They're throwing things around, carrying on. And I started thinking about, what do you guys really want to hear about? First, I want to thank CCA and all of you for all of your support over the years to FirstNet and to the public safety and the first responders, making it possible for this to even come to fruition. Do you know that today, for example, NYPD, there's 38,000 police officers, patrol officers, that are using mobile devices on their hips today. And on those devices, in New York City today, at any one time, a shift is about 6,000 of those officers. The technology is in use today where there's a technology called Shot Finder. So if shots are fired somewhere in one of the 5 boroughs of New York City, the sensors instantly triangulate to where that shot came from. At the same point, they're pinging databases back at headquarters relative to the location, how often have they been there, what type of people, if they have been there, might be there, sending pictures, and also checking wants and warrants in seconds. And it's going to the closest units that are wherever those shots are on their hips today. Can you imagine? That exists today. Those devices are on a commercial carrier's system, and they work great, 98, 99% of the time. But when there's Macy's Day parades, football games, those devices are competing with the rest of us for spectrum. And that's basically what FirstNet was born back in 2012. Congress set it out, and we're today glad to be able to say, a promise fulfilled. There will be a dedicated nationwide broadband spectrum for public safety in those times of crisis. So the technology that exists today for first responders can be utilized, especially when they need it most. As Steve mentioned, last week was a pretty big week, even by FirstNet standards. On last Tuesday, about 12 days after the U.S. Federal Court of Claims cleared a protest that we had, and I'll talk briefly about that, we had our FirstNet Board of Directors, which is an independent board, vote unanimously to authorize me to continue and execute a contract. 2 days later, we were able to execute a contract, and we're proud to announce that AT&T, through the process and all their partners, prevailed in that, and they are now the FirstNet provider for the next 25 years. So we're very excited about that. It's going to be a great opportunity for first responders to get what they need. Last Tuesday, the board meeting, Steve and CCA and a lot of associations and public safety from throughout the country came, and they were very supportive, as they have been for years, relative to this. On Thursday, the new administration, Secretary of Commerce Wilbur Ross, the chairman of the Energy Committee, Greg Walden, Marsha Blackburn, and the new FCC chair, Ajit Pai, came to the ceremony continuing to throw their support to the first responder community and to FirstNet. So there's a lot of momentum behind that and what's going on. So we're very excited that now we don't have to talk about what's possible. Now we're in the action mode. We're literally 1 week into a new contract. So it's very exciting. So let me talk there's still a lot of questions going on. Well, what does it mean and how does that and what happened with the protest and how are we supposed to know? Because the next big wave that we have is to go to the states to make sure that they feel comfortable and confident. So on Friday of last week, the U.S. court released a redacted version of a court opinion. It's about 33 pages, and it talks and spells out all the reasons that the protest that was filed by one of the competitors, Rivada Mercury, didn't prevail in their request for protest or to come back into competitive range. You know, they cover from the financial stability, the teaming, to all that. And it's pretty interesting read. But more importantly, what got me really excited when I saw that opinion, because it's been completely sealed up to this point, is the validation of all the process that this acquisition did. And the rigor and the vigorousness that the FirstNet selection team, the evaluation teams, and all the processes we went through to select the right solution. We weren't out to select a company or a particular approach. We were out to select a solution that would provide the best value at the lowest risk for public safety. Even the court, if you can imagine, 4 months ago when the protest was filed, that the judge and that whole system never even heard of FirstNet, let alone the priority of what that mission was supposed to be, the complexity of what we were trying to take on. But through that process, over the 4 months of the court hearings, even the court realized the process in which we went about to select a solution and a vendor was tantamount important because we are picking a solution for first responders to have a solution that is going to work during a time of crisis. And so it was great to see that. I was always proud, as you always are, of your teams that are working for you and supporting you, but I was very proud to see that in writing from a disinterested third party. So now let's talk about what you probably really want to know. Well, what's the deal? You know, what are the terms? So we entered into a contract last week with AT&T. It's a 25-year IDIQ with a contract ceiling value of $100 billion. So $100 billion, and as one person pointed out, $100 billion doesn't go as far as it used to, but we hope it goes a long time. But it's 25 years. The reason it's an IDIQ is because we envision over the next 25 years, technology is going to change, the state's needs are going to change, and we will be issuing task orders off of that IDIQ for the next 25 years. You all know better than anyone, especially me, look at how technology has just changed in your world in the last 10 years. So we can't predict what the technology will look like 10 years from now. So we set up this contract vehicle. 25-year, $100 billion ceiling. AT&T at a minimum has to invest $40 billion back into the network and to build this, $18 billion of which is cash back to FirstNet. And that's a significant number in a lot of different reasons. One is by statute and by our responsibility to first responders is we are going to reinvest the excess amount of funds of that $18 billion back into the network. This isn't a one and done, they're going to build it out once and it stops. This network, the innovation, the technology is going to grow and evolve, and I think that's where a lot of you will probably have an interest and an opportunity. My organization for the next 25 years of that $18 billion, because we have to be self-sustaining, no additional tax dollars, is probably going to be $2 billion at the most. Not $2 billion a year, $2 billion total. So that gives us $16 billion to reinvest back into the network. Well, where are we going to reinvest? Probably in those logical areas, into the rural areas to further expand the footprint that will already be out there today. All 16 objectives that we laid out in the contract were met. The rural coverage milestones were exceeded. All those things will start coming out in the next 2 to 3 weeks, down to the states, giving that communications to them so that they have the information to make informed decisions. So we're very excited what's going on. So 25 years, $40 billion. The other thing is they are, for states that opt in, which means the governor says that they're going to have FirstNet and AT&T build out the system, the AT&T is going to allow immediate priority on all of their existing networks, on their LTE networks, immediate. So we're going to be able to capitalize, we, being FirstNet and public safety, on over $180 billion worth of existing assets. They will then provide preemption on the current AT&T networks by the end of this fiscal year. And that's a contractual goal and a contractual statement. So now, while we're building out the Band 14, the FirstNet network, priority and preemption for public safety on the existing AT&T and their partners' LTE networks will be available. So if there's a crisis the next day, that priority in New York City will be able to, those 6,000 units, if need be, will have priority and preemption over the rest of the AT&T commercial traffic. And that's a commitment AT&T made to public safety because they know how important it is. And they know how important it is to the first responders that everything works when it has to, when it needs to happen. So that's exciting. So 40 billion, 18 billion reinvestment over the next 25 years. So in the rural area, rural telcos, there's at least 20 rural telephone companies that are already part of the first wave, and you know who you are, and that's the first wave of what they've committed, touching over about 2,000 antennas. That doesn't mean it stops there. The growth and the opportunities, and that's where I would also suggest and strongly suggest that if you are not part of that first part and you believe you have value and you have differentiators and a value proposition in your state or in your region that you're already providing service, I strongly encourage you to reach out to AT&T and try to establish that relationship if you don't already have it. AT&T has presidents in every state. We also have points of contact. I'm going to be available after this to answer a few questions along with my assistant, who's also going to be at the booth today to collect, if you have capability statements, areas of interest, my commitment to you is we will take every one of those and make sure that you are connected with either the right people within FirstNet or the right people within AT&T. So there's a lot of opportunities and upside as to what can happen going forward, because this is not a static deployment. This is not a one-and-done contract. This is for 25 years, and the rural is an important component, and you know that better than anyone. And that's a significant requirement that we had, that all the vendors had to meet, and AT&T did that. You may know or not, the contract also had to build out rural every time with every phase. So within the 5-year build out, rural will be being built with each successive phase. We won't just go to LA, New York, and Houston and then start there and then worry in year 5 to the rural components. So as Steve talked about, there's a lot of activities at the federal level relative to rural broadband, rural deployments, all those things. We think FirstNet and this relationship will be able to, there could be possibilities of some synergy. So we're going to be supportive of that as the FCC, NTIA, Chairman Walden, all those other people try to figure out how to help drive the rural broadband development in each of the states and districts. So it's an exciting time at FirstNet. It's an exciting time, more importantly, for first responders. Even as of last week, they were calling, showing support. Some of you may have heard, and it happens unfortunately every single day. A woman couple days ago drowned in her car talking to 911, but they couldn't figure out exactly where she was. Well, FirstNet isn't going to solve everything, but certainly is going to hopefully make a dent in solving some of that. So I want to thank you all very much for your time. I look forward to meeting and visiting with you in the future, and I wish you all the best of luck. Thank you.
He said, hey, we need to be members. Hey, thank you.
You bet.
Thank you. All right.
Good luck, fellas.
We're going to do a little changing up here on the stage. Number one, I'd like to thank Mike, not only for his interesting comments, but his update, and thank him for joining us here at CCA. You know, this is not the first time he's been here. I understand that Mike and his staff, Chrissy Kuhn, will be available out here in the hallway for a half an hour or so. Then Mike has to catch a plane, but FirstNet does have a booth on the exhibit floor, booth 704, and Chrissy is going to be there for the balance of the day, and she certainly is a great resource for you to not only ask questions to, get your business card to them, and she'll follow up. They've been really good about working with us and giving us all their information they can given the time of the RFP. Now, next up, that's here in just a second. We'll be ready. It's here from our keynote panel.